Today would be, if this were going to be a normal day, the Pride Parade on Miami Beach. We'd be going to Miami Beach, having a service on the beach, and then marching in the parade. But life isn't normal right now. So the plan for today is for 4 members of our congregation's LGBTQ plus community to share their responses to these questions. What support and challenges do you face as an LGBTQ plus person in our culture? And how can our congregation support you beyond these walls? Each of the members of our congregation who answered these questions created a video, and you'll be seeing them later in the service today. So let us open this time of worship and reflection with a responsive reading. Now, this is going to be a little challenging, but I'm going to give you the words that you'll say, and I'll say them along with you. Your part is going to be to say, "It will not matter." So try it out. It will not matter. Okay, let's try it out. Here we go. If recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white, it will not matter. If you are female and I am male, it will not matter. If you are older and I am younger, it will not matter. If you are progressive and I am conservative, it will not matter. If you are straight and I am gay, it will not matter. If you are Christian and I am Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move toward restoration. Now, we will begin to hear from some of the members of our congregation who've created these videos. The first one you'll hear is from a member whose name is Luigi, and then one from a member whose name is Sam.
Wonderful to be with you and able to share my thoughts and heart. For this Pride service, Reverend Tom has asked a few of us to share our experience as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer individuals in our community. He's asked us to answer a few questions or rephrase them and share that. So here goes. What support do I get from the LGBTQ community? I get a sense of belonging, a sense of pride when someone acknowledges my contributions or expresses appreciation for the work I've done over many years to make Miami a better place, to heal the world, to make a contribution to my community wherever I've lived. I get a sense of community and a renewed trust that there will be someone there to take care of me when I need it. In these troubled times, it's good to acknowledge that sooner or later we will all need help, and that sometimes that help comes from family, sometimes from family of choice, sometimes from community, and sometimes from our community of faith. I earn a living as a change agent, as a bridge between the LGBT community I know so well and the Department of Health and the broader heterosexual community. My experience and service to the LGBT community supports me financially. So what do I do? What do I get from the LGBT community? I get a sense of belonging, community, social security, and the ability to earn a paycheck. Reverend Tom also asked us to speak about the challenges we face as LGBT persons, LGBT people in our community. I don't like speaking about my challenges, but again, here goes. I face the challenge of aging while queer, and of aging, period. But I do believe that aging while queer has its own challenges. Gay culture is a cult of youth, of beauty, and exploration of sexuality, sensuality, hedonism, drugs, art, music, whatever. It's a cult of virility, of the forbidden, and of pushing boundaries. As an older person in that culture, I'm starting to feel like I'm becoming invisible or a little less visible, that I'm being discounted. I have a Unitarian Universalist friend in Portland, Maine, Bobby Keppel, who wrote about this in her article titled Gray Haired and Above Suspicion. She tells about feeling that others no longer see her as a sexual being, no longer an object of desire, of feeling less attractive, less visible, and thus being able to fly below the radar. I'm feeling those losses too, feeling less attractive, observing a change in how people behave towards me, feeling less a part of, but also enjoying the advantages of stealth. Another challenge I face is AIDS survivor syndrome. Yes, those of us who lived through the early days of the AIDS pandemic have grown a second ass, AIDS survivor syndrome. It's the result of the trauma associated with multiple losses over prolonged periods of time. For many of us, a couple of decades of accumulated losses. AIDS survivor syndrome is used to describe a constellation of physical, psychological, emotional symptoms that some long-term survivors may experience after living through the intense grief and trauma of the early years of the AIDS pandemic. Symptoms may include depression, uncertainty about the future, particularly their financial futures, suicidality, feelings of panic from growing older, particularly outside of a relationship, social isolation, withdrawal, survivor's guilt, and more. It's akin to complex PTSD. But I also want to stress that AIDS survivor syndrome also includes our remarkable resiliency. What we lived through in the early years of the HIV pandemic, what we are facing now as the first generation to be aging with HIV, is truly the stuff of heroes, the definition of brave. Our histories set the stage for our future. It is up to each of us to make meaning of our experiences and define our goals and quality of life. It is up to me, to each of us, to define hope, to find a sense of meaning and purpose, and to embrace our roles as elders, teachers, and leaders. It will be up to me and you to live a life worthy of our journey. That is, after all, our fourth Unitarian Universalist principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So what can the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami do to support me as an LGBT person? I have to say that I have always felt a source of support from the congregation, and it has supported me as a whole person, from the fellowship with like-minded individuals and the security and comfort of having my beliefs validated and reaffirmed, to sharing our space and bringing our energy and resources to community efforts in the company of other members of the congregation. From the time when Iris Massey and I and Carol and half a dozen witches hosted Starhawk here in our sanctuary for a weekend drum circle and pagan community building event, to the many times our congregation and its members hosted the LGBTQ youth of Pride Lines, to the time when our transitional and transitioning minister, the Reverend Drew Johnston, and I presented a Transgender Day of Remembrance program at Felix Varela High, and the Affordable Care Act Medicaid expansion protest and the Children's Detention Center protest. These moments have been powerful, rewarding, and part of what binds me to you. This, my friend, is the fabric that supports us all. So what can the Unitarian Universalist congregation do to support me as an HIV-positive pansexual Latinx person? I say continue doing what we've done so well. Let's educate ourselves and others on the needs and concerns of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people in our community. Pick one thing, one way in which you will make a contribution this year. Reach out, volunteer, or donate to an LGBT organization, and do it as a member of this congregation. Let them know that you are doing this, yes, because you agree with their mission and support their mission, but also because someone here at our congregation asked you to. And finally, as a congregation, let's renew our welcoming congregation certification. Let's find opportunities to host more LGBT community events here. It will take many of us to do this work, not just the members, our LGBTQ members. So please let Reverend Tom or me know if you are willing to help with the welcoming congregation renewal process. Thank you all. I love you. Happy Pride, stay safe, and blessed be. Bye-bye.
I hope everyone is keeping healthy, staying safe, and finding ways to keep yourself sane during this trying time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam. I've been a part of the congregation for about a year now, and for those of you who do know me, hi. As many of you do know, we were supposed to be at Miami Beach Pride today. I'm sure we all wish we were there, but we're doing our part in physically distancing, obviously not social distancing. Since our plans have changed a bit, Reverend Tom has asked a few of us to share our answers to some questions related to our service, and I'm thankful to be a part of this project. Now, I can only speak for myself. When I answer these questions, I hope you take this to heart, and I want you to know that there's so many more people out there with so many more answers and experiences. I'm just glad that we get to share. So the first question is, what support and challenges do you face as a person, as an LGBTQ person in our culture? And I'd like to start with some of the challenges so that we can end on a positive note. The biggest challenge I face as a lesbian is my personal safety. I do prefer to express myself in a more masculine manner, and that normally brings a lot of strange looks. It can bring inappropriate questions from strangers, and it has brought verbal and physical harassment in the past. There are a lot of times where I'll go shopping for clothes and be in the men's section, and I feel every muscle in my body tense as a man rounds the corner and sees me there. Or when I drove across country, I remember peeling off my equality sticker from my car because I was so afraid going through these less than accepting states that something would happen, and it was overwhelming. Another challenge I find is that as a gay person, I'm told very often that my needs and wants for equality in all aspects are overbearing, or they're just completely misunderstood. Even from friends and family, I'll receive comments such as, why should it matter? And what's your obsession with gay people on TV? Or even, why would you want to be in a marriage, be miserable like the rest of us? I understand that not many people think of this because they don't have to, but representation in media, in politics, and family and friends is so important. It helps form stronger friendships with people around us. It affirms the need of the individual to feel seen. It helps people accept themselves for who they are and build stronger sense of self-love. Nothing will tear you down faster than realizing that people around you don't care about an aspect that makes you uniquely you and uniquely strong for it. With that said, I've also found some of the most supportive people I get to call friends and family. In our culture and in our community, I find there's a huge need for groups, social group outings, art groups, therapy groups, etc. We all want to feel like we belong somewhere. And being in the LGBTQ community, I've been nothing but supported by fellow queer people. My first job was actually with an LGBTQ social services youth group, and building those connections, learning from people that represented me, helping shape younger folks, it felt like a blessing. It was something that I had never had the opportunity to do before. So this sexuality of mine that made me inherently me, found home in the hearts of people who just loved differently. So our second question is, how can our congregation support you outside of these walls? And I love this question. And my first answer, vote. I know it's simple, and we all know the state of our political system these days, even more so the state of our country. We have a say in who we vote for. And the saying goes, vote as if you're Black, Muslim, gay, a woman, disabled, but we really need you to. We need more support in our government, and you can help us get that. My second answer to that would be to educate yourselves and not be afraid to ask questions. When I first started coming to UU Miami, I was asked by many of you what my pronouns were, and that blew me away. Taking the time to educate yourselves, and even more so the people around you, helps spread understanding, awareness, and even love. If you have questions, you should feel empowered to ask. And it's okay to say, hey, I'm not educated enough on this, and I want to ask you these things. I want to be more aware of how I hold myself or how I speak. Just reach out. You want to be a good ally. This is how you do it. You're getting the word from the horse's mouth, as they say. I think that's the right topic. And people like me, we love educating. I love educating people on things like why I use they, them pronouns, or how to use they, them pronouns, how sexuality is fluid, or why wearing a binder for too long is unsafe, why I believe gay men should be allowed to donate blood. I mean, the list goes on and on. And lastly, apologize when you mess up. It happens. We're all human. I've misgendered friends before and caught myself, and it's an ugly feeling at first because we know that things like that are used to hurt people we love. But sometimes there is a learning curve, and sometimes it's just saying, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry, and I am going to work on it. If you're putting that effort in, then that means the world to someone like me. That way, you're more aware of it, and you can call people out on their homophobia when we're not around. It's nice to have a friend to your face, but it's nicer to have a friend behind your back. So I hope that answers some of your questions, any thoughts or anything like that. I hope everyone continues to stay safe and sane, and I hope I get to see everybody soon. Stay well, everybody.
And now we have a special music video. This video was created by Frank Ragsdale, our Unitarian Universalist Congregation music director. You might want to turn the volume up just a little bit.
Hello. I thought I'd record and share this with you in honor of Miami's Gay Pride, which would have been today. It's one of my favorite songs, called Love Who You Love, from the musical A Man of No Importance. Haven't sung in a while, but thought this was probably the perfect time. I'm not one to lecture, how could I dare? Someone like me whose man may lead nowhere, but in my experience, be as it may, you just have to love who you love. You just have to love who you love. Your common sense tells you best not begin, but your full heart just can't help plunging in, and nothing and no one can stand in your way. You just have to love who you love. You just have to love who you love. hard sometimes, and their words can cut so deep. Choose the one you choose, love, and don't lose a moment's sleep. Who can tell you who you want? Who can tell you what you were destined to be? Take it from me. There's no fault in loving, no cause for shame. Everyone's heart does exactly the same. And once you believe that, you'll learn how to say, I love who I love, who I love. And just go and love who you love.
Now you can turn the volume back down a little bit. And here are videos submitted by Andy and Cassie.
Hello everyone, I'm Andy Arthur. I'm a worship associate here for, new values of here these days. And I'm speaking to you today at the Pride service because I identify as a bi-romantic, gray asexual. Now I know some of you at home just went, wait, what? So let me repeat it for you. I am a bi-romantic, gray asexual. Now if you're still confused, I'll break it down. I'm going to start with the noun. Asexual. That means someone who does not feel sexual attraction. Many of us who identify as asexual call ourselves aces, and I am a gray ace. The gray means that I have felt sexual attraction at 1 or 2 times in my life, but it is exceedingly rare. If you think about sexuality as a spectrum, and I know we think of a spectrum from gay to straight, but you can also think about sexuality as a spectrum from having sexual feelings to not having sexual feelings. And I am on the side of the spectrum that has no sexual feelings, but I'm not completely all the way at the end. The next part to break down is bi-romantic. Despite not having feelings of sexual attraction, I am highly romantic. I love fluttery feelings and flirting and all the things we associate with romance. It just has nothing to do with sexual attraction for me. I know those things are so intertwined in our culture that this can be a little hard to parse. But because they're so intertwined in our culture, it took me for a very long time to figure out that there wasn't. For a very long time, I thought that there was something wrong with me. The rest is of bi-romantic is the bi part. I feel like that's the easiest thing for folks to parse. Bi means feelings towards both men and women. So to recap, I am a bi-romantic, gray asexual. Reverend Tom asked us, all of us who are speaking today, to talk about the challenges we face as people in the LGBTQ community. Now, in the LGBTQ community, I am in the LGBTQ plus part, so as a plus person, I am remarkably privileged. I pass as straight. I know those who know me fairly well and have seen my plays and think, oh, she's bi or she's a lesbian, because she writes a lot of romantic stories between women. But the person walking down the street would just probably automatically assume I'm straight. My appearance makes me not a target for hate crimes on the LGBTQ spectrum. I'm very unlikely to face employment discrimination. And most importantly, I've never felt unsafe because of my sexual orientation. So I am exceedingly lucky, and I know it. I have, however, felt like I wasn't functioning properly in a highly sexualized society. And it is very weird to navigate that as someone who really wants to be sex positive, but doesn't actually feel sexual desire. For most of my life, I wondered what was wrong with me. Because everyone else seemed to have feelings that I just didn't have. I would try to fake it until I made it. And that was a disaster. I would wonder why I felt butterflies while flirting, and then when that flirting activity became physical, I would generally feel absolutely nothing, or some mild distaste for it. And, you know, there's only so many times a person can try to make themselves feel something that they just don't feel. And I don't feel sexual attraction to people 99.9% of the time. And I thought that meant I was malfunctioning as a human, and it was exhausting. Our whole society is very much set up that people feel romantic and sexual attraction are the same thing. And so I spent my teens and 20s just kind of wondering what was wrong with me and hurting some other people in the process while I tried to make relationships work that were never going to work the way the other person in the relationship wanted them to work, because I didn't function in that way. In my early 30s, I became friends with some gay men who were just out of college. And it was through them that I found the wider variety of orientations besides gay, straight, and bi. And it was amazing. I wasn't malfunctioning. I just don't experience the world the way other people experience the world. And these friends, who were mostly a decade younger than I was, were so accepting and excited for me to come out to them. It felt like coming home. The world finally made sense. I finally made sense. Reverend Tom asked how the congregation can support me outside of these walls, and I have one big request on that account. Please, please stop saying that labels don't matter. I know your intent is good. I know that you're trying to uphold the first principle of Unitarian Universalism, that everyone has inherent worth and dignity. However, when you don't fit a default setting, labels matter a great deal. Having this label, bi, romantic, asexual, means a lot to me. It made me realize that I wasn't weird or malfunctioning or just not right as a human. I know labels can be hurtful to people, but sometimes they're revelatory and freeing. They do matter. When most of the world feels the way you do about something, it's really easy to say that labels don't matter. But when you finally figure out that you're not alone, that there are words for the way that you exist in the world, they really do. So my ask to you, this congregation, is just to please stop saying that labels don't matter. Because labels helped me figure out that I am who I am, and that there are others like me in the world. Happy Pride, everyone, and may you not go so stir-crazy as we stay at home during this pandemic. Thank you.
Good morning, UU Miami. It's so wonderful to be back here with you today, albeit in self-quarantine, but we are doing what we need to do to keep ourselves and others safe. When I first walked through the doors of UU Miami, I walked in quite closeted to the world and to myself. I, as a Cuban American woman who was raised Catholic and taught to follow the heteronormativity of her cultural and religious upbringing. Now, I was also raised as a free thinker who got to watch 60 Minutes as a child and have incredible conversations with her parents. I knew that people had the freedom to choose how to live their lives and to respect who a person loved, but I also knew that I liked guys more than well enough and that the ability to explore other parts of myself was anathema, off limits to me. I just never really knew that bisexuality, pansexuality, queerness was something that I could lean into and still be loved and respected by the people around me. And as a person who practices monogamy, I had this misconception that you had to operate in the binary. I thought you had to make a choice to be gay or straight. But being bisexual, pansexual, queer isn't a choice. It's something that comes from within. And when given the loving support of a community such as this one, is able to live itself out in its fullness. And you've done it by just being who you are, for offering a safe haven for expression. If it weren't for Margaret McAllister's example with PFLAG, I wouldn't know that a group of straight parents would go to such lengths to support and uplift their LGBTQ youth and support one another along the journey. Here at UU Miami, I saw straight couples with kids and gay and queer couples with kids and grandkids, something I never saw growing up in my childhood faith tradition. Here, I have been surrounded by people who are not only out here, but in our wider society, and whose work as community leaders modeled for me the importance of representation, the importance of not remaining in the closet. Congregant Luigi Ferrer invited me to be part of a bisexual group in South Florida, not only to be in community with others who similarly identify, but to learn about bisexualism and pansexuality in America and the marginalization of health services faced by so many who are systematically assumed to be hetero or gay, depending on who we are dating at the time. And serving as a worship associate for guest speaker, Cuban American poet laureate Richard Blanco, with my parents in our sanctuary, affirmed that I too could come out and be loved for all of me. Ultimately, I knew deep inside that my parents would love me, but knowing that you already did and accepted me for who I am, whether you knew what my sexual orientation was, gave me the strength to lean in to coming out. And as a queer, cisgendered Cuban American woman, this congregation and the wider Unitarian Universalist faith gave me the space, the breathing room to embrace a part of my identity that I had suppressed for many years for shame and fear of cultural and familial confusion and reprisal. You, UU Miami, have done exceptional, welcoming work. And we still have more work to do because, hey, white passing queer Latinas have a home here, but who else can we invite in? Let's continue to stretch ourselves to learn more about otherness and challenge assumptions we've made about others. Stretch and search out the struggles faced by the most marginalized people in our society today, Black trans women. We can start today, later today on Zoom. So when entering your name, you can write your gender pronouns right after it. For example, I would write Cassie Montenegro or Cassandra Montenegro or Ms. Montenegro, depending on context, and write she/her right after it. That may seem insignificant, but it allows trans people to be seen as they have the right to be seen, while also giving the subtle visual reminder to those in the chat to challenge assumptions. And once we are back in our physical sanctuary, after giving your name, offer your gender pronouns when first meeting someone and listen to see how they respond. And they might not want to, and that's okay, but you provided the opportunity. Don't be afraid of the awkward conversations and missteps, because they will happen. But most importantly, you can't be afraid to apologize when they do. Humility goes a long way. Because when we normalize the ability to have loving yet awkward conversations in our congregation, that can lead to growth. That can lead to a community of seekers who are radically welcoming in the way that being lesbian, gay, straight, atheist, bisexual, and theist is welcomed here today. One thing as a faith is to say that we respect how people live and the choices they make. And another thing entirely is to welcome them in their difference and see the divine in them and who they are, listening to their stories, seeing and loving them as they are, just as they are when they come into our community and become part of us. Many blessings to you all, and keep one another and yourself safe. Amen.